Hi, everyone. Episode 84 of the Unsecurity podcast is upon us. Wow, it's already mid-June. June 15th, 2020 to be exact. I'm your host, Evan Francine, and joining me as usual is Mr. Brad Nye.
Good morning.
Brad. You have to wait for me to say good morning, and then you can say good morning.
Sorry. I was just so excited.
It's our first podcast?
I'm just so excited, man. What do you want?
This is like 84.
We are professionals now.
Yeah. 84 is a lot.
It is.
All right. So last week I mentioned, how you doing? You doing all right? We're going to get to that a little bit more. But
yeah, we'll get to that after you.
You threw me off because you said good morning before I did.
Keep things fresh.
All right. So last week I mentioned I wanted to do this series, Women in Security, on our show, and you seemed pretty excited about it. You were actually pretty jacked.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it also meant, I first of all, I really agree with it. I think it's a good idea, but it also means I don't have to come up with a topic every other week.
Right. Yeah. Some weeks you struggle a little bit with that. That's okay. All right. Well, I was talking about this for a couple of weeks with a close friend of ours and an awesome business person, Renay Rutter. Renay has more than 30 years of IT and business leadership experience, and we've had the pleasure of working with her here at FRSecure for the last 2-ish years. She's currently FRSecure's Chief Operating Officer, and she's pretty much kicking butt. So welcome to the show, Renay.
Is this where I get to say something?
Oh, sure. If you want.
Hey, no, hi. I didn't want to interrupt you like Brad did and like start this off on the wrong foot or anything.
Well, you saw the show notes. I sent them at 4:45 this morning.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah. And was that a pretty good intro? That was okay? Did I get everything right?
Super. Yeah, you just like boiled me down to just a couple of words and sentences. It's perfect.
But on the show notes, there's a link too if everybody wants to see the real deal, like all the stuff. But it's pretty impressive. I'm glad you're here. So we have a lot to cover today. Before we jump into the meat of the show, we always check in, and that's kind of what we're going to do now. Brad, how you doing? How was your weekend?
Good. It's been a lot of time outside. You can tell I'm a little pink, as Renay observed. But it was good to get out, and this wind has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
what'd you do outside?
Finished up some landscaping stuff. We put, planted a bunch of lavender and mulching and, just getting outside of the house.
Yeah.
It was.
Did you ride your new bike?
I didn't, but it was our son's birthday on Saturday. And so got to take his sisters to the store Friday. It was the first time they've been out to the store since mid-March when this whole thing started, and to get some presents, and they were pretty excited. It's funny how just something so normal was a big deal.
Yeah. But, all right. Just kind of did some landscaping, did some stuff around the house.
Big birthday party, just us. Sisters decorated. They were super excited about surprising him, so that was really fun.
Did you have cake?
They made cake. I only had to help hang decorations. It was fantastic.
What kind of cake was it?
Funfetti.
Ooh, that's a fave.
Funfetti frosting. Yes, that was his request.
What kind of frosting?
The funfetti frosting. So it had little sprinkles in the frosting.
Dang.
Sprinkles makes everything better.
That's right. So Renay, how was your week? How was your weekend?
I did a lot of that outdoor stuff too. A lot of walking, tons of walking, earthing. I call it earthing when I get outside a lot, right? Go barefoot a little bit as much as I can. Walking and, finding that a little more social aspect of things, walking around, finding an outdoor patio, things like that. But just kept moving, which is good. I like that.
How's your ankle holding up?
Awesome.
Good.
I didn't even notice it. I got a blister from walking, but that's a different problem.
Right. Well, because you're a runner too, so that means you're back on
I'm back in business. Now I just got to start running again.
Good for you. Do you ever run, Brad?
Yeah, it's not as much fun for me. That's why I prefer biking.
Hmm.
But yeah, I do run.
Okay. Well, good. I just did building a deck.
Oh yeah, you did. If you need help, let me know. I offered it. I got tools and
Well, I guess there's that tool that you
yeah,
can use that will hold your deck boards together.
it is game
Close.
changing.
May I borrow that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I'll drop it off at some point.
Or I can swing by your house. I mean, I know where
Yeah.
you live.
Oh, ugh.
Oh yeah,
I
I
mean,
do.
yeah, that's fine. Anytime.
Okay. And what else did I do? Oh, I helped a buddy. He's got like a 1960 something travel trailer, and so he gutted it, and I helped him on Saturday. So a lot of stuff. I did a lot. I did electrical work, plumbing, and deck stuff.
Yes.
No, I don't know if it's nice, but that's what I did.
A lot of tools.
Yeah, a lot of tools, a lot of like I don't know if you can see my hands, but they're yeah, look, working person's hands. Anyway, all right. Do you remember last week? Last week was a blur for me.
Kind of. I don't remember it.
I don't either. What the hell? All right, you texted me this weekend too about an IR.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on talking about that one because there's probably some potential legal stuff going on. But
Well, now you tell me. I tweeted it.
well, we don't know for sure on that. It's still pretty. It's still early in it, but I would say at the minimum, there was some MSP credentials that were looked to have been compromised. Now, whether or not they didn't clean up some stuff and it was just coincidence or not, we don't know. Still too early on that, but it was definitely there's a lot going on.
All right. Well, I tweeted it and it went viral. So okay.
He's messing with you, Brad. He's messing with you.
Brad follows me on Twitter. We're both twits.
But no, yeah, those guys are doing an amazing job. It was actually Oscar that found some of the stuff, and it was making calls back to IPs to the MSP and using an MSP named account that was a domain admin, and encoded PowerShell yet again.
Stuff like that.
It can't confirm it at this point, but it's definitely it's interesting.
Well, that's cool. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that maybe someday. Other things. So we had the when's it last week or was it the week before when we finished up the FRSecure
It was
CISP mentor program?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago already.
Yeah, so not last week, the week before.
Yeah,
We did the quizzes like the Wednesday before last week.
It seemed like it was last week for a minute there.
It's all a blur.
Yeah. So it was a really good. I want to talk about that really quick. I thought it was really awesome. This class was the best one yet. We had 1,444 people register for this class. There's always that significant attrition. I think people are like, oh God, or they maybe it's not the learning format that they want, or they just watch the videos later on. So there's all kinds of reasons why people kind of tail off at the end.
Yeah, we still had like 200 plus used our active viewers the last educational lecture class, not the so.
Yeah, I had technical issues, and then one time I forgot my laptop at the office.
Well, I was a diehard loyal attendee on that one. I made every single one.
I know. I loved how you gave me the feedback. Gave us feedback, on it.
Yeah.
It was really cool too to have 3 instructors this year. So myself, you, and Ryan.
It's amazing what a difference that made. I can only imagine how much of a relief it was from when I started helping, because the 2 of us has been like, oh, And now just having Ryan help out was a huge help.
Yeah. How many have you done now?
Four.
Third or fourth? The fourth?
Right.
Okay, so the first 7 were just me.
Right. This is fourth.
That was hard. But I was younger then. I had more energy. I was, younger. More
I think
energy.
you still have energy.
No.
You're just faking it.
Yeah.
Well, it's all that caffeine you're drinking.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
coffee.
that can't hurt.
Coffee. I'm not even going to tell you what time I got up this morning. And I thought it was really cool too. Brandon, reached out and said we had 5,398 views of session 1. So that would be the one that would always get the most views because it tails off at the end, because each session is 2 hours long. It's hard to kind of keep people's attention for 2 hours. It's hard to keep my attention for like 2 minutes. 2 hours is a long time.
And it's not the most exciting stuff.
Speak for yourself, man.
Well,
You could, I could offer my opinion on that.
Sure.
Because I'll tell you, I'm thinking, there was some dry material, but just the exposure I had in IT industry up until now when I joined the session kept me interested in the material. And there was maybe a deep dive or two where my brain just said, you're going to have to memorize this stuff. And so then it kind of checks out while you go through it. But that was sporadic here and there. I just found the whole thing fascinating and how it all ties together. I also have a new appreciation for how smart Brad is.
Yes. I already knew
Me
that.
too.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Well, it's not that I didn't know, but you kind of see it in action. You're like, wow, that guy's pretty smart. Don't let it go to your head now, Brad, because I'm still going to boss you.
Yeah, I would expect nothing less.
His pink face is turning pinker.
I'm glad I was pink so you can't see me blushing.
Right? That's
So,
cool.
I totally enjoyed that, though. I really did. Right up until the end when you're doing the quiz questions. It was great.
Cool. 5,400 views is a lot of views.
It is.
Especially for CISSP stuff.
It's not publicized or anything. It's just organic traffic.
Yeah.
Just think what you're doing for the industry, right? You're fixing it little by little.
Trying. Yep. And it's a team effort, man. It was so cool this class in particular, having the 3 instructors, because that meant that, we only had to teach once every couple of weeks, really, which was really nice. It was kind of cool to watch you guys do your piece. And then we had a bunch of people already tell us that they passed the exam. Cool. Yeah. I don't know how many. I've seen like a dozen, maybe.
At least.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool to see people pass their exam and then moving on. And a few of them said that they were going to pay it forward.
Also,
well, hopefully do their own mentoring and teaching. Yeah. I didn't ask them specifically, but hopefully something like that, they should, and for the listeners who've never heard of the CISSP mentor program, it's our free information security training program. Really, we teach you everything you need to know about the CISSP and then teach you some stuff you can forget after, right? Taught by me, you, and Ryan. And I don't know, what does that combine? Maybe 60, 70 years of experience, something like that.
Yeah, something.
And then Renay, you were our guest. You are our guest here, and you were on the show. That was cool. I mean, you were on the podcast. What the
class, yes. The training, the mentor training.
What day is today? Oh my God.
It's June 15th.
All right. Anyway, great session. Really excited about, next year. I want to get us somehow in a way where we can do this perpetually. Always be teaching, throughout the year. And if we share it well, maybe I only have to teach once a month, get other instructors, maybe some of those people that say they want to pay it forward, bring them in, right? We got an email, I think just yesterday, about somebody who passed their exam and even offered to come and teach.
Cool.
So how many would we need to do that? 5, 6 instructors, maybe?
How many sessions were there again? About 12, 11?
Yeah. But anyway, that'll be fun. And then, yeah, so 11 years. This was the 11th year. Big thank you to you, Brad, because you stepped up. I never asked you to ever teach. You just, I remember, the first year you came to work here, you're just like, oh, I'll help. I want to do that. So you set the example, you set the example. And I think getting Ryan involved just made it that much easier that you were already there. And then we also had a bunch of people behind the scenes. I don't think they get thanked very often. So Brandon Mattis, our FRSecure content marketing specialist, that's a lot of work. I mean, he had to email, I don't know, that was almost a full-time job just right there.
Yeah.
Lori Blair also helped, as one of the moderators. And so Lori might be on our show in the next couple of weeks as another guest as we talk through this Women in Security series. Ryan Abraham also, was a moderator online. Ryan's always kind of stepping up too.
Mm-hmm.
Really love that. Oh, and Lori, my God, she's got the more experience than all of us.
Yeah.
She's amazing. And then Chad Spoden. So those were people that helped, I don't know if people knew that, but.
Yeah, and they were on, I think, almost all of them, if not all of them, all three of them moderating online. Maybe
right.
One. Yeah, they did a great job.
So that means they're giving up at least 4 hours of their personal time to moderate, right? Mm-hmm. And there's also other stuff, that they do. So yeah, it's a commitment. All right. So now on to our series topic. And there are numerous reasons you're here, Renay, but this is kind of the big reason because you're not a man. And so we want to get your perspective on women in information security, because it's so much different than if me and Brad were talking about it, right? Because we don't walk in your shoes. We don't have the blister that you got this weekend. We don't have the ankle pain. We certainly can't run like you do. But I think this is the start of something cool. I want to do more of this. I want to get more people's perspectives other than just me and you, Brad.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a big portion of the next 4 shows, at least, because the 4 shows will take some of our people here, but then do we want to get people from outside of FRSecure, outside of our circle, and get even more perspective? I think there's an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get honest. Let's talk about women in the information security industry. Questions, do we have a shortage of women in the information security industry? Some people would say, well, duh, obviously we do, right? But some people probably would argue that we don't, right? So, talking that through, and some people might find it surprising. Certainly some of the new people in our industry may not know that perspective. Why the topic is important for us to talk about. Why is it a big deal to have, if we have a shortage of women in our industry, is that a big deal? And why is it? I think there's just a lot of things we can uncover on all this stuff. So who better to start it off with than you, Renay?
Thanks. How to really start this, I feel to myself, is it a big deal? How many other industries are there where people will say there's not a lot of female representation, right? So, and in my mind, I want to make sure that we're addressing it for the purpose of, improving the security industry, not necessarily representing female, right? Yeah. Or women. And so I think to myself, what are some of the reasons? And in one way, I don't know that all women are encouraged the same way men are in certain fields, right? That's changed over time in probably the legal industries, medical industries, right? And security industries, it's a little fresher. I don't know the statistics on IT industry in general. I don't know if either one of you have that off the top of your head, but I think the more women are involved in the industry, the more we expand our thinking. And that's kind of what you guys are looking for, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll say from my experience in IT, it's probably ballparking at 20-25%. it's really low.
Yeah. And so what's your first inclination as to why you think that is?
I think IT is still, like you said, still relatively new in terms of an industry. Really, it only started picking up mid 90s maybe.
Mm-hmm.
As a big kind of everybody has a computer. So I think there's, we've seen it where women haven't been as encouraged for that STEM side of things. And so it's just kind of stemming from that.
Pun intended.
So, no, I caught myself. I didn't mean to do that, but yeah.
So what was the question? I missed the question.
It's like, why do you think there are fewer women in the security industry or IT industry even? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think traditionally, I think a lot of women, parents don't really bring it up as a potential thing. I mean, I've raised 5 children, and I don't know if I've really pushed my daughters into tech as much as I did boys, just naturally, because I think just in our society, when I look back and think of how I've talked to my own daughters, but I was looking up the statistics when you asked, what percentage of women. So 47% of all employed adults in the US as of 2015 were women. So almost half. I think that gap is even narrowed, or maybe it's even flipped. I think there might be more women today. And in 2015, they held 25% of the IT jobs.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. I was right on.
Yeah, you were. You're so smart, Brad. Well, it's even when you think about women's jobs, what kind of industries are they in? And is there any psychology behind how the male and female brain work that maybe attract them to certain industries? Maybe it's not all nurture. Some of it's nurture. Some of it's, an environment. Some of it's just the way we're wired. But that said, it doesn't mean that how our brains are wired would be more valuable when it's in a technical field, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think just traditional like gender roles seem like, like girls typically play, at least when I was a kid, girls would play with Barbies and things like that, and boys would play with race cars. You know what I mean? I think maybe that played a role, because my mother was one of the first, IT people, I think, for women. I mean, she was just very much a kind of on an island. And I think if you think back to, 30 years ago when you started in IT, what was it like for you?
I actually, truthfully speaking, didn't really pay attention to how many other women versus men there were, because it's just the way I'm personally wired. Mm-hmm. And even when I grew up, oldest of 5 kids. So my parents encouraged us all, however they encouraged us, right? Whatever they did something right, because I think confidence has a lot to do with whatever field you're in. And so I got plenty of confidence. And I think, and we played, by the way, with those really cool race cars and racetracks just as much as we held out the books. I don't know. I think I had 1 Barbie, but again, everybody's unique. And I think that's part of why I want to be careful not to stereotype a little bit. I think everybody's unique and has unique circumstances and personal drive for things. But when I got into the industry, I just was exposed to technology, and somebody was willing to explain what it was to me. Now, the fact that those somebodies were mostly men early on in my career, I didn't even compute. It just didn't compute. But the more I realized that I would learn more hanging around with people who would share that technical stuff, the more I realized I wanted to learn more about it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I just paid attention. And then I always like to tug somebody along with me. If I get taught somebody, hey, did you see this cool thing that this guy did? And so you bring people into it. But personally, I didn't feel different. I just didn't. So maybe that's not a good way to kick off this whole series,
No.
but I didn't feel different. And there's lots of, probably some perspective I can still share with you, but I just didn't feel different. I didn't let society make me think, I'm a woman and everybody else in this meeting is a man. Now, once in a while, I would notice that, but for the most part, I felt like an equal, acted like an equal, and expected to be treated like one.
Mm-hmm. Has that changed at all since you first got into IT?
What part changed? How I feel or how I'm treated?
Sure.
This is a trick question. No, I think maybe in my wisdom and old age, I might be a little more aware of it than I was before, because I was always perpetual motion. What's that next thing to learn? That next smart person to hang around. You know, when I say how much I appreciate Brad's smartness, I meant that because that's how I like to be. I like to be around people who are smart or who you can tell are smart. And maybe it's just the mechanical part of me that wants to know how things work that made me hang out more with men, I suppose. But again, who knows why that was. Has it changed? Yeah, sometimes I notice things and I thought, that's not really right. And I have to fit it into my reasoning of circle of influence and circle of concern. Is there something I can do to fix that? And sometimes I might get right up in somebody's face and say, hey, I'm in this conversation too. I've had that happen a couple of times in security, maybe networking events. Mm-hmm. I think, Brad, were you there for one of my favorites?
I've been there for a couple. I'm not sure which one is your favorite, but there was a couple where, yeah, I remember like,
sometimes you'll ask a question and you're maybe standing in a group with maybe you're a small group networking, 4 or 5 people standing around making small talk, and you're finding out what each person's doing, right? There are some people who will only want to know what the Brad is doing or what the Evan is doing, and they kind of gloss over that Renay is standing in the circle, right? But Renay doesn't take that too personally. Renay says, hey, I have a question. What about this? Can you talk about this in your career? And they will look at a different man in the group to answer the question. And then maybe even gloss over part of my question. So I call people out once in a while and say, well, you didn't answer my question. And sometimes they get a little surprised by that. But I'm not, really in your face. I'm just reminding people.
No, it's okay. You're in our face, and that's okay.
But you know what? Would you say that about a guy who did that? You wouldn't say, oh, that guy's always in my face. But you kind of remember it when a woman's in your face.
So that's one thing that you've noticed that's different with the way women are treated in our industry than men, or IT in general, maybe. Or is that just in general?
It could be probably in general. It's just my exposure is more IT stuff and and security. But I don't do a lot of the softer stuff. I like in the STEM circles, if you will. But even leadership classes. I'm in a leadership class right now. There are 2 women and 22 men in it. But women, again, not trying to be too stereotypical on strengths, we tend to be able to communicate a little more efficiently in certain circles, right? So I think that's good, because sometimes when all those thoughts are out there, a woman will help pull them together. And that's maybe where I see an edge women might have if we had more of them in security.
I'm thinking when you said that about, the in your face, and with some of our clients and the female leaders, and I think I can definitely think of like 3 that I would say are, and I don't want to sound dismissive of the in your face. Like, to me, that's a good thing, right? You're not sugarcoating it. You're just, hey, it is what it is. Here's the reality. Go. And of those, they're all the exact same. Like, very much direct. Here's what's going on. Here's the problem. Just go figure it out. And I'm just wondering if it's more of a confidence thing.
I think confidence has a lot to do with it, Brad. I would totally agree.
So that's interesting.
So is it more? Is it more important for a woman to have that than a man?
Personally, I think
I
think that maybe there's a lot of men that have confidence that maybe shouldn't, and are willing to just put it out there. And then there's probably more women that aren't feeling as confident because it's what, 25% of IT, and that's a smaller number in security. So you're clearly the minority. So is it
Yeah, well, and being direct is appreciated by some of us more than others. And I happen to appreciate directness. And being direct is a skill. It's also a skill to organize your thoughts such that you can put them out there in a direct fashion, right? And maybe, you know, it's almost aggressiveness when you do that. And maybe boys were encouraged, you know, be more aggressive on the playground, or, hey, let's fight it out kind of thing. Whereas women, you know, or the girls maybe reasoned and talked more. And again, I don't want to stereotype it, but it's still kind of, you know, how the world's been evolving. And if you get a woman who's a little more aggressive and direct, some people pause, or even better, pay more attention because they're not used to it. So that's where I think we might have some leverage.
Yeah. And I don't, you know, and not all stereotypes are bad either, right? So, I mean, even if you are stereotyping, I mean, you have to speak in general terms because we're talking about women, right? We're not talking about a specific woman. You know, my mother, whom, you know, I respect immensely for a lot of things, she's definitely not your stereotypical woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When, of all the women I've met, you know, I can sort of put a lot of them in a, you know, in kind of in a, you know, same with men, by the way, you know, in a bucket, I guess. And then there's just these people that stand out like that's outside of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think of you as being another one of those people. You're outside of the norm of other women that I've met, you know, but I have this perspective, you know, I haven't met all the women. So there's something different, in my opinion, you know, about you. You are direct. You are, you know, I mean, you're not a pushover, you know, by any means. And I really admire that, because I would just think that there's like safety in numbers. There's safety there, you know. I think it's maybe easier just when you look at, if 75% of the IT industry is men, do I not need to stand out as much, you know, to kind of get lifted up, you know, just things like that? Because you're a leader. Tell me about how you got to be a leader in IT, because that's even more exceptional.
I think, you know, just from the onset, I told you about listening to people who are smart, or just listening to people in general, probably has got a lot more value than we realize. Because you ask a question of anybody, and let's just say I tended to be around a lot of males, and they take the time to answer the question for you, you are not only boosting your knowledge, you are boosting their enthusiasm and their confidence, and they respond by wanting to share more, either with you or with the next person who asks. And so it's not manipulative, but it's one of those things. I know when I ask people to explain something to me that I'm pushing just a little pride button on them that makes them want to do a good job explaining it to me, right? Or a good job the next time they talk to someone, and maybe they'll have a little more patience, or they'll go down a path that they wouldn't have done before. And if that applies specifically to women, great, right? You know, that woman asked me the question and she didn't look at me like she didn't understand a word I said. She actually at least appreciated what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? We do understand a lot of what you say.
When I've heard over and over again from women, I think, but I don't know if I've ever heard it directly. I think I've read about it and I've seen it maybe in tweets and things like that. References to a bro culture. You know, do you feel like there's a bro culture?
To a degree. I just kind of refuse to just accept it when I see it happen, right? But yeah, the bro culture started with the men's room stuff, or let's go out and have a cigar or smoke, or whatever. And women started getting into that, the happy hour situation, or the networking thing started to be a little more inclusive. The dinners and things like that wasn't just the men. The salespeople end up being more women, so then you have a little more concession there. But I did feel, at least once in my career, that the bro culture was profiling the kind of person they wanted to be the next CIO, for instance. They expected it to be a man because the men were talking all the technical details, and what they, in my opinion, were overlooking was that's maybe a little one-dimensional, and that maybe a good CIO has the ability to think more broadly and in a business sense and a people sense, and how to implement technology, that versus just the technical astuteness, right? So that's where I tend to try to get people to expand their thinking beyond bro culture, because women do process things differently. Wouldn't you say, can I ask you guys another question? When we talk about fixing the broken industry and talking the same language, and a lot of the challenges that our customers have are explaining, or even the IT people of our customers explaining to executive leadership or boards or committees why it's necessary to do that thing, why that vulnerability can't, that's a risk that really you need to not overlook, and getting others to understand it when they're not in the bro culture, right? Don't you think women might be a good addition to helping pull all that together?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think as many different perspectives as possible.
Because if it's true, and it is, right, that there are fewer women in the actual technical positions, but there are probably more of an equal number of women in maybe leadership or management that touches those things, that like women consultants, I think they're particularly effective because of how they can connect the dots for customers. Not that men can't, but I think women are uniquely able to sense when somebody isn't quite getting it, right? Or needs to go down a different path, or has another agenda at the table, right?
Yeah, I've said it multiple times with like working with Megan or Lori, where it's like trying to talk through whatever issue, and it's like they'll have an idea, and it's like I never would have even considered that. Just not how my brain is wired. So yeah, absolutely. It's great to have them.
Well, and just, we've all been involved in solving really difficult problems before, whether they be business problems, whether they're problems with information security, personal problems, even like, there's an example even this weekend, working on the deck, I'm stuck on a freaking corner that I can't figure out how I'm going to cut the wood. And you just bring in a different perspective, and it's not the same perspective that thinks like I do.
Mm-hmm.
If you think like I do, you're going to look at the same problem. You're going to have the same damn frustration I have, and we're never going to get it. So Marlis comes out, my wife comes out. She looks, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, this damn corner, I can't figure it out." And she's like, "Well, why don't you just do this and that?" And I'm like, "Where the hell were you 20 minutes ago?"
Mm-hmm.
But this stuff is so important.
It is. They say, when you're building an organization or hiring people, you're not supposed to hire somebody just like you. Mm-hmm. So there's merit to that, right? Yeah. and that's why I like, and I think when you go back to how did I get to be a leader, I think it was an appreciation for making sure that we were looking at all sides of things. And I don't know that that's just a female thing. It's just a person thing. So I go back to the uniqueness of who everybody is. But security needs more people who want to ask questions and listen to the answers.
That second part is the key. A lot of people ask questions and then just tune out because they've already made up their mind.
Yeah.
It's true too. Well, and I think, and anybody who's, I have been around enough women to, this is going to be a stereotype for sure, that women think differently than men.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's that different thinking. I think that's so refreshing. And that, was one of the stories I often share, Renee, about you coming here. It was different thinking. I mean, it was so stale. It was so dull. It was so boring. We weren't solving any problems in the leadership team here. And we knew that we needed a different perspective. And so we were intentional about hiring a woman because of the fresh perspective, because of the creative ways of looking things, creative versus what we were used to. And it proved out to be 100% correct. So it just reinforced, if that was a stereotype, well, this experience just reinforced it. That
good stereotypes, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, we should hire more women. You know what I mean? And so, Vinay thinks a lot different than you do.
Yep.
She's not, she's like there are different types of women, I'm learning.
You think?
Holy cow.
But as different as the thought process is, there's that similar, like, just, again, in your face, very direct, no beating around the bush. Okay, here's what I need to know. Here's what I don't understand. Just, again, telling it like it is it's I don't know, it's refreshing. I don't know what the right word is for that, but it's been fantastic.
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just thinking, what the industry needs to keep moving the ball and keeping the momentum and even accelerating that, right, is more people, not just men or women, more people who appreciate asking the questions, listening, and being direct about it, and I think the part that, have you ever heard how men process and compartmentalize? Have you heard this one, right? So you guys have a box for everything, right? You have the box for when you're hanging out in your garage. You have the box for when you're watching a sporting event. You have a box for when you're talking to me. You have a box for when you're talking to the kids or whatever, right? And so you put on your box mode and you compartmentalize, and that's how your brain functions. It focuses. Whereas women, we take all those boxes and every single one is related in some fashion or another. Right. So when you're saying something, I'm not just in my my kitchen mode or my gardening mode or, my friends mode or my, be the wife mode. I've got all those modes always constantly looking for a relationship. So when you've got security problems or IT problems, you guys have a box for every problem. I think a woman at the table is, regardless if she's focused on a box or not, she's going to look at how that box fits with some of the other boxes, maybe before you even get there, right? She may not have the depth on the box, but she's going to know that's going to be a thing. And so I think that's where that is refreshing. Mm-hmm. And even when you say bringing me onto the leadership team, you guys had boxes for all your problems or whatever the issues were that you wanted to think through. And I would look at one box and then I would see how it was related to another box. And so in solving one, you kind of got halfway to solving the other ones.
Yeah. It was one, I'm thinking, if that's true, because I've heard that same thing. I've heard the same boxes and, women are like a ball of wire, right? Electrical wire, constantly going. And I wonder if, because to me, boxes, opening boxes, closing boxes seems very binary, right? It's either the box is open or the box is closed. It's either in this box or I'm not in this box. So, and I don't think men can be in multiple boxes. We may think we can, but we actually just closed a box really quick and opened another one really quick. I don't think so if that's true, then that sort of fits more with computers. That's how computers, right?
I'm totally with you on this one. I tend to agree with you on that. Yep.
And so but then the thing about information security is it's not an IT issue.
No, and it's not completely binary, right? It has binary components.
Right. And actually the most significant challenge in our industry is actually analog. It's people.
There you go.
People are the biggest risk. People, their habits and things like that. So it just shows that, people using computers. So if men are binary, I mean, this is just theory. I don't know if it's even close to being true, but men think like computers on, off, and here's another thing, and this is going to be definitely a stereotype, but if my wife is listening, she'll appreciate it. Computers only do what you tell them to do. I only do what my wife tells me to do, right?
So, yeah, you know what? And so here we go. I get a little uncomfortable when we get this far with stereotypes, because I do feel we're all so unique. But you're right. There are some tendencies that seem to be true. I know, but it's so if the security industry really does need that, you know, it's more social and analog and people related. I think you're onto something on how women can be a part of that. It's even like when you take that specialist, that guy that's really good at I don't know, data storage and management, right? And you say, well, you're so good at that, I'm gonna make you a team lead over all the other data storage guys, and we're gonna throw the help desk team in there or something weird, I don't know. But you just took them from one role that required the opening and closing of boxes potentially, and stuck them in another role that had to open up this realm of, you know, interpersonal relationships that maybe wasn't not an assumed fit or shouldn't be an assumed fit, right? That applies anywhere, right? Even in an HR role or a sales role. Just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're going to be good at that bigger picture people thing.
Yeah, and I don't want people to read into it more than what I intended, because if you were to take that, you could easily read into it that men are better with computers than women, and that's not at all the intent. I know some hella good, you know, female hackers that, you know. So it's not that. I'm just trying to think if men just think more binary. I don't know.
Or maybe it's the comfort zone, right? You're used to doing that, so you just keep doing that, and then, you know.
Yeah. So you, so somebody who's getting into our industry, somebody who's new, do you think that a woman, would she be more prone to feeling intimidated, do you think, than a man getting into our industry?
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too.
I don't see why, but it's all, this is where the uniqueness comes in, and I don't think it's stereotypes, but anybody who's, you know, maybe considered minority in any fashion, would they have to be intimidated in the security industry? I hope not, right? I believe in particular at FRSecure is a very inclusive company, and we tried that to get the message out to the industry that we're here about fixing the industry, right? Not certain people in the industry or certain size companies even, right? It's about everything. So I hope not. I hope it's based on personal interests and confidence, right? But I think our biggest challenge is taking somebody from interest and wanting to learn to building enough confidence to follow through. And so maybe that's where the play is, where a woman might need a little bigger nudge, or a minority might need a little bigger nudge than a guy would, right?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is the company culture. I mean, I've worked at places where it absolutely was, you know, would have been that tough, and it was uncomfortable for me even with some of that, like a bro culture or whatever, however you want to say it. So yeah, like, I think finding the right company is a huge, huge part. There's some that I've seen where there's no way they would succeed. Just was not going to ever happen.
Right. Well, and just the numbers would tell you that there would be some sense of, because when you have 75% of one type and 25% of another type, you know, that's where the bro culture comes from, right? The 75% of their type thinks that they're the only type.
Mm-hmm.
They forget about this. Oh, wait, there's other types. You know, you just get so engrossed in your own sort of thing. And then when one of the 25% wants to, you know, collaborate with the 75%, I mean, I can see how it would be like, you know, who the hell are you? You know, you're not one of me. You know, I mean, male, female, you know, races, whatever. It's just, I think that's just sort of the way things go. And I agree. I don't want anybody to ever feel intimidated in this industry. I don't care, whatever, you know what I mean? There's a place here for everybody. Absolutely. We've got gobs and gobs of open positions supposedly in our industry, well then all ages, all races, all sexes, all everything, right? We got to fill these positions. The only thing you got to be is just don't be a jerk.
No.
Well, you know what? Here's another question for you. What if women don't want to work in security?
Well, there's fine.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe the mix is there's not that many in it because it's just not something they're interested in.
That's true. That could be very true. Good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
See, just doing it art again.
When your creative approaches to things, my brain hurts.
I just know a lot of really smart women in the security industry, and I love seeing that, and I would love to see more. But at the same time, you know, if somebody's not interested, maybe they're going to do better with their unique talents in a different industry. That's going to help us in some way indirectly. You never know. It's all those crazy wires hooking up somehow.
Well, that's true, right? Because you know, people have gifts. People have certain gifts. My daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, I can't see her ever being in information security because her gift is like, I could see her being like, she's just a free spirit kind of person. I could see her being a missionary, you know, all over the globe, you know, just never staying in one spot. That's just kind of how she's wired. She doesn't want to sit in front of a computer or in front of a book for any more than like, because I tried, it's like, let's do some Arduino together. We can build, you know, cool LED lights and, you know, really cool electronic stuff. No. About 15 minutes and she was like, this is stupid. Right.
So her gift is challenging yours, right? Her gift is always on the outside looking in, making people think about why they think the way they do, and getting people to just maybe look, you know, a little more liberally at stuff. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I learned here too is, I mean, I've learned a lot. It's going to be good for me to reflect on the conversation. But you know, the whole, it makes a hell of a lot of sense to, as much as you can, to fight. We all stereotype, but to fight that and to take somebody at face value for who they are, right? Don't jump to conclusions about, I mean, I know we have our initiative 0 here where, you know, you always give people the benefit of the doubt. Give people the opportunity to be who they are with you, you know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All right. So other things I had, you know, sort of on our show notes, you know, the talent shortage problem in our industry. I think there's a greater role for women to play. I don't know to what extent that is, because like you said, maybe a lot of women don't want to be in this industry for whatever reason. You know, there could be a ton of reasons. I don't know.
Or maybe we should think differently about what skill this industry needs, and then maybe that women fill a different skill set and not the stereotypical technical acumen. Maybe it's that skill set of talking to people and logically bringing together a strategy for a company. And that's one thing, and I know we're running out of time, but that's one thing that when I first started in this industry, I felt like I wanted to help explain things to people. So I think I'm missing a little bit of my purpose here still. I'm trying to develop that. How do I reach people to talk more about why security is important? I don't have to tell them what to fix, but I need to help them understand why it's important. Yeah. So an option there. Maybe look at all the skills that people or women can bring to the industry, not just the obvious hacking one.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very, very broad industry with lots and lots of opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. This was a good, I think, introduction to the series. You know, I'm really looking forward to talking to, you know, some of the other ladies in our company, because I think they're going to bring just awesome perspectives too. That'll be fun. And Brad, you're leading next week, so I did send an email this morning to the three of them, to see if they want to, and if they do, we'll arrange for it. You know what I mean?
That works.
Anyway. All right, good stuff. I got 3 news things real quick. We are running out of time, but man, it was an awesome discussion, Renay. super, super grateful.
Thank you.
First one is from the Hacker News. I think anything with the hacker sounds sort of dumb, but whatever. That's what it is. And the title is "Spies Can Listen to Your Conversations by Watching a Light Bulb in the Room." How does that make you feel? What kind of light bulb? Is it incandescent or is it fluorescent? What kind of light bulbs?
I just want to turn off the light. Problem solved. That sounds binary.
I was looking at that. It looks like it has to be a overhead light where the bulb is exposed. So like a pendant light where the bulb is exposed. So just cover your bulbs.
Right. Well, this is another one of those kind of side channel attacks.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's
cool.
But I don't know how
practical.
Yeah, probably not real practical.
No, not really at all. But this came out of a team of academics from Israel. It's always the Israelis always doing something like this. It's pretty cool stuff. Wasn't it, the firewall people? Palo Alto. No, not Palo Alto. Checkpoint.
Yeah.
Came out of Israel.
Oh.
Right, and it's going to be presented at Black Hat 2020 if you want to know more about it. It's called Lamp Phone. The attack is interesting, but it's not practical. I don't think. I'm not worried about my own home. I'm not going to start covering my light bulbs. Are you, Brad?
I don't know if I have any that are just hanging out. So no. I think I'm okay.
Well, I am coming over to your house today, so I'll check them out.
Okay. You see the best of the painting that I'm halfway through.
Yeah. All right. The next one is from Naked Security, which I still giggle every time I hear Naked Security. Sophos, billions of devices affected by universal plug-and-play vulnerability.
Again? What? That never happens. It never has.
If you have universal plug-and-play turned on, you probably deserve to be hacked.
Yeah. Well, that one's bad because it's like everything. It's not just your computer. It's like IoT.
All your IoT devices. Yeah.
Well, and how appropriate coming from Naked Security, because that's definitely the definition.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was a universal plug and play vulnerability didn't surprise me. What did surprise me was the number of devices.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Billions of devices. Now, what can they do with this? It was a server-side request forgery like vulnerability. They didn't give details. There's a CVE out about it.
So I use it as a DDoS type of attack, some reflection attacks or something.
Well, it's called Call Stranger, and it looks like it's there's a potential to configure devices and then exfiltrate data through the the universal plug and play protocol. So it's not simply just a DDoS type of an attack. It does sound like it's something that you could configure things.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on what the device is.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, if you have universal plug and play turned on and you can turn it off, your IoT device doesn't require it, turn it off. Yeah, or block it, do something. Mm-hmm. Filter out the firewall. And that goes with everything. Whether you're susceptible to this vulnerability or not, there'll be another one for universal plug and play. It's always been vulnerable. All right, and the last one was Homeland Security. A warning from them, a Windows 10 wormable bug. This one comes from TechCrunch. This came out 6 days ago. I'm surprised I didn't hear about it until I started doing research for the show. It's called SMB Ghost. Freaking SMB, man. SMB and universal plug and play, right?
Yeah, can we get rid of SMB?
But this is another one. As long as you're following just normal best practices, you shouldn't be vulnerable to this. right? I would never have SMB open to the internet. There, you wouldn't be able to get to this port. You wouldn't be able to compromise this vulnerability. Maybe even, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen. I mean, we see it in IRs all the time.
But you never should.
Well, I agree, but that doesn't mean
That's all I'm saying, man. The best practices. Just follow best practice. Yeah or no?
I mean, it's easy to say, but people still just don't do it.
So you're saying we have more of the industry to fix?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll get to work on that. All right. Well, that's it. That's episode 84. Those 3 news stories. We don't have to go into depth on any one of those. Again, thank you, Renay, for giving us a great start to the beginning of the series. We're lining up our guests for next week. Brad, it'll be you leading. We can even take the same sort of format. I'd love to hear perspectives from others who aren't, I think, because Renay is somebody that I certainly respect a lot. You're bold. You're a good leader. You are confident. You do stand your ground. But, you know, maybe one of the other women that we talk to won't be quite like that, but yet they're very successful in our industry. So it'll be cool to hear those things. Yeah. Either one of you have any shout outs you'd like to give to anybody before we wrap up?
Just give a shout out to both of you guys, because being part of this, I was your guest on show 8, and now you're at show 80 something, 84. So I'm super super proud that I can continue to be part of what we're trying to do to fix the industry. So yeah, today's conversation was great. There's just so much more to talk about, and I really encourage you to talk to more and more women and more people to get perspective. It's great.
Yeah, we will do that. Maybe we'll have you be a bookend on the other side of this too. You know, as you listen,
I would love it.
Yeah, as you listen to the women that we talk to during the series, you might have some more comments.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let me give that some thought and make sure I'm listening to these. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe participating at some point.
You mean you're not listening to everyone?
And we.
I
try.
Do you have any idea how much work we put into this?
When you start putting more women on the show, maybe I'll listen more.
Right. Touche.
All right. What? You know what? This is going to go places. I can feel it already.
Nice. Brad, you got any shout outs?
You know what? I'm trying to think if I do. Gosh.
You have nobody in your life to be thankful for.
Well, yeah, obviously. I was gonna think, you know, just the team still, like watching them overcome things as we grow and through this new reality and adapting, and just everybody, you know, is just doing such a great job of working together and not, you know, imploding.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my mom. My mother truly was, I think, I'm guessing there were probably less than 10% of the IT industry when she started were female. You know, IBM, and she not just IT, but IBM, you know, big corporate America. And, you know, I'm going to probably text her or call her this afternoon because I have newfound respect for her as I'm considering these things more.
You know, you mentioned that, and it just clicked. My mom did coding with punch cards before I was born, and then stayed home. I wonder if that's also part of why, right? It was a different culture.
I should have my mom on the podcast.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You need to get your mom on this. Totally.
Oh, she's kind of crazy, but okay.
That's perfect. I mean, come on. So are you. We'll get to see how the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
That explains it. Now I know. Brad, I want to know more about your mom too. So let's talk more about this later.
Yeah.
If she's got a technical background, maybe she'd be a good perspective too. We could do like a whole
mom series.
Yeah.
I got a mom too. There you go again.
Boom. Moms everywhere. All right. Well, thank you to all our listeners. We do dig all of you folks. Well, most of them. There's probably 3 that I don't dig. Brad's a little harder on people than that. I think you're up to like 6 or 7 now that you don't dig.
Something like that.
Yeah, let us know what you think about this show. We'd certainly love to hear your ideas. Whatever your ideas are, right? Good or bad, we'd love to hear that. You can email us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. You social types can follow us on Twitter if you like. I'm at Evan Francine, Brad's at Brad Nye, and Renay is, she's got some Twitter foo also. She's at Renay Rutter. We have like no creativity in our Twitter handles whatsoever.
I'm not at Renay Rutter though. I was at something else, I think.
No, I looked at it this morning.
Oh, really? Okay. I must have 2.
All right.
Whatever you say, Evan.
Well, I got some OSINT skills. The companies we work for are social too. It seems like everybody's social now. Everybody's got something to say. Try to stay out of the muck and mire. Security Studio Twitter is at Studio Security, and FRSecure's Twitter is at FRSecure. So feel free to follow them. They'll have some goodies, I'm sure, for you also. That's it. So talk to you all next week. Thanks.
Bye.